Welcome back to the Command Your Brand Show. I am your host, Jeremy Ryan Slate, the CEO and co-founder of Command Your Brand. We help individuals to get out there, make a bigger impact, and really command their brand. If you want to grab our new PR book, it's over at bestpodcastbook.com. It was recently ranked #1 in the public relations category in Amazon. And if you're brand new to this channel, don't forget to like this video, leave us a comment, and smash that subscribe button if you want to command your brand and make a bigger impact out there. And I'm very excited for the conversation that we're going to have today, because I feel like so much of the information that we get about health is it's bad. It's bad information. It doesn't make us better. It doesn't make us more well. It just leaves us in a state of any other way to say it than dis-ease. It's disease. We're not doing well. And we have a really great guest with us today. So welcome to the show, Swirl Moore Williams.
Hi, Jeremy. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Swirl, for people that may not be familiar with you and what you do, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I like to call myself a nervous system specialist. I tend to focus on more of the cause of what is happening when people are in disease versus their symptoms. A lot of times people have, something going on, these effects, right? They're coming to me and they're saying, oh, my neck hurts. Oh, I've got this back pain, or I'm not digesting food very well. I've got all this extra inflammation. And so the first thing that I do is I actually look towards their lifestyle and how stress is affecting them. Because what we have found is that stress is actually the cause of most disease. So oftentimes we can link it back to what that actual cause is, and then using different modalities and tools that I offer, we can help them kind of shift their state of being and shift out of a stress state and into a more coherent, more whole brain mode, which is actually where rest and digest, growth and repair mode happens.
And I believe you have a little bit of a personal story too that's kind of led you into really looking to help people heal the way you do. Tell us about that.
Definitely. Yeah. So I like to say that pain is my greatest teacher. I come from a background where I grew up in the Midwest and was raised very Christian, very religious, and, was kind of forced to believe everything that I was taught. And whether that was from my preacher, from my teacher, from my doctors, from my parents, and ultimately, most of my life, I didn't really agree with what was happening. I was like, oh, this is like, I feel like I'm getting the short end of the stick here. Like there's some kind of sham going on, and not knowing any different. It led me to actually being in a lot of distress and a lot of disease, and mentally, as well as physically, I was just breaking down. Even spiritually, I just wasn't connected anymore. And I didn't know how to connect. So at 15, I was suicidal. I just figured, why not just end this? Because none of it was making sense, and nothing felt good. Shortly after that, well, obviously it didn't work. So when that put the idea in my head that there's like a purpose to life, that was actually something the doctor had said to me, came in and was like, anyone else who did what you did would probably be dead. And so basically you should be dead right now. And I was kind of like, whoa, well, I mean, that was kind of what I was going for, but obviously it didn't work. So maybe he's right. Maybe there is some kind of greater purpose here for me. And shortly after that, I actually it induced like a slow death, really. The level of inflammation, the level of pain that I began to have on a physical level was deteriorating my body. Within a year from that, I was then diagnosed with degenerative disc disease in my spine, as well as 2 scoliosis curves, kyphosis, the onset of osteoarthritis and fibromyalgia, and told that I would be in a wheelchair by the time I was 30. And I was 16 years old, and I was like, whoa, okay. Well, now doctors told me that I'm going to be here because I've got this purpose. And now another doctor's telling me that my quality is not going to be too great. So I was like, well, I have to fix something. What can I do to help myself? How can I not have this be that that be my path, that be my road, So basically following this pain, whether it was physical, mental, spiritual, emotional pain that was sitting in my body and in my being, and trying to find ways to liberate it. And every time I would find something that helped, I would just learn how to do it, because I'm like a lifelong learner. So I'm just like, okay, help me, maybe it'll help someone else. So I just started learning and growing and then applying everything that I learned that helped me to my life, and actually how I built my practice and how I help people now and have come into the lineages that I carry forward and what I teach people.
Swirl, I don't know if you ever considered this, but to me, it sounds like you're a seeker, like you're somebody that's always looking for that solution and that answer. And I guess if you look at that, what kind of guides you in that? Because I think it's really interesting, because you see a lot of people that look for something and they never find it, but you seem to be continually looking and finding. And I'm curious what guides you in that.
That's a really great question. For me, it's, I guess, what I call my intuition. It's my connection on a soul level, my level of presence, like who I am at the depths of me, like my essence. And when feeling disconnected from that, it's like, that's like my first sign. When I feel down and out of my body is what I mean by down and out.
Right.
Not in my body. I'm feeling down. I'm feeling low energy, low vibration. The first thing I do is bring my awareness inside and internally bring all of my attention. And I'm sure you've heard that, like, where your attention goes is where energy flows. So when you're tending to where you want to grow, that's what happens. And so once you turn that inwards, internally, then that can begin to grow, and those little bits of connection can start to happen. And for me, that was ultimately what it was. I like to also call it like my compass. It's like aligning to my North Star. Like, what really inspires me? And when I can tune into what that is and tune into the deepest core of who I am, then I can pretty much find all the answers there. And that's like just a level of empowerment that I like to guide all of my clients and really anyone that I come in contact with to be their own power and their own source of wisdom. Because I'm finding things, but I'm also, because I'm turning inwards and I'm seeking that from myself. I'm not out there externally asking, oh, hey, fix me. Can you help me? And it doesn't mean that I don't ask for help when I need it.
Sure.
It's more so that I'm the first person I turn to when I'm seeking guidance, because I know what I need. Truly, like, my body's infinitely wise, and being connected to that, my essence, right? The soul of what animates us as human beings, this energy within us, our vitality, then I can begin to listen on a deeper level and begin to find those answers.
It's so interesting, because I think so often we want to find something outside of ourselves to tell us what's right and what's wrong and whatever it may be. And it's because I've had different viewpoints on this throughout my life, but I feel like it's also, like, at least where I'm at right now, I feel like it's a responsibility level thing, right? Like, if we find somebody else to help us, well, then they're responsible for our condition, good or bad. And I think so often we're actually a lot more capable and a lot more able to solve our own condition than we want to believe. Is that something you've considered?
Definitely. And it goes into what I was just speaking to around empowerment. You can either be a victim in life, and this is like a state of being. It's something that you can like choose. You can choose to be a victim to your circumstances. You can choose to be a victim to the things that are happening and look at life as though, like, oh, it's happening to me. Woe is me. Or you can take that responsibility and begin to step into a place of empowerment, where you begin to understand that this is all happening with you. Life is happening for you, and you become a creator in that standpoint. And that's an empowered place. And of course, it can be really easy to just fall into the conditioning and blame and point the finger and be like, you did this to me.
Well, and I think society like really enforces that, right? Like
Totally.
we tell people, yes, you need that medication or you need that pill or you need that person to help you, rather than like, hey, there's a solution. You can do something about this, right? Like, I think it's also, it's enforced on us too.
Definitely. It is the way that the paradigm has been set up till this point, where it is like that I know better. I'm the
Yeah.
authority over you. So you need to do X, Y, Z because that's what's going to help you. And really all of that system is set up to keep us in a loop. If we look at modern
Yes.
day medicine, it's like it's a money game.
Yes.
That's all it is. The more that the doctor diagnoses that this thing is what's wrong, then you get this drug, and then maybe that creates another side effect. So you need another drug. Then the doctor's making more money to get paid, to make those diagnoses, to do those surgeries, as well as the pharmaceutical companies, big pharma is
Yeah.
banking off of every single thing that's wrong with us. And, don't get me wrong, I'm not opposed to modern medicine. Like if I break my arm, you bet I want a doctor to reset it.
Absolutely. I think there's definitely uses, but I think at the same time, like, we don't empower people, right? Like we disempower them, and that's a big problem.
Definitely. And it's that knowing, that knowledge of that the body is infinitely wise and it is a self-healing, self-regenerative mechanism.
Well, let's take a look at that then. We have this disease state. We have all these different things that kind of show up in the body, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think it is so interesting. Like when you're off purpose or when you have a bad relationship, like these things do physically show up. And I guess when you look at it, what's that process like for you, and in terms of like who you work with activating your body's ability to heal? Like, what does that look like, and what does that process look like?
Yeah. So like I was saying, if you break your arm, like you want someone to maybe help it get back, set it into the right place, but
Right.
then the body is going to do the rest. The body is actually what's going to mend. And so when we begin to look at it in this way, that my body knows how to heal itself, same thing with a cut or anything else. So we have to remember that, and we have to kind of like, subscribe to that, to like, oh, my body is infinitely wise. It knows how to heal itself. So that's like a first step, is like even understanding and like starting to believe in that concept. Because like you said, most people are disempowered. They're like, oh no, I'm broken. And kind of just don't even know what to do or how to even begin to look through that lens of like that of self-healing. So first thing is like helping them understand that their body is able to do what it does when it is in the most favorable circumstances. And also understanding that a lot of times the issues are in the tissues. That's like a common thing that we hear in the wellness industry, especially in like the bodywork field and different things. So what I mean by that is that these things that happen, whether it is an injury or an emotional thing or a stress, that it ends up sitting somewhere in our body in one of our tissues, which all of our organs are made of tissues. Our muscles are made of tissues, ligaments, everything is also, some kind of tissue in our body. And so it ends up sitting somewhere, which then causes us this dis-ease. Symptoms start to come up. So first step is beginning to turn the mind and start to have a new perception and perspective of how the body works, and understanding that when it is in a whole brain function, when it's in growth and repair mode, then it's optimized to do what it needs to do. The issue that ends up happening, or the challenge that we face as modern humans, is that we get locked into a stress state. And when that happens, our brain actually lateralizes, and it is then focused on survival. And when your brain is focused on survival, things like digesting your food or like ovulating or even, conscious breathing, that's back burner. Now, all I need to do is survive. There's something, something is imminent, and survival, which means like blood goes to the peripheries and your body is like pushing adrenaline and cortisol, different stress hormones, to make it through. So when locked into a stress state, unfortunately, what happens is that all of those vital processes get put on a back burner, and they end up staying there, and which causes the slow degeneration over time, where what I do, one of the modalities that I do is called alpha biotics, and it helps bring people out of that stress state by interrupting the stress pattern that's playing out in the brain. And then that allows the brain to check all systems, realize, oh, wait, I'm not in imminent danger in this environment, does a little reboot and comes back into whole brain function. And so once it's in whole brain function, like I said, that's growth repair mode. That is when now blood comes back into the midlines, invigorates all of the internal organs, and balance and power is equally going to each side of the body. So then now the body is in the most optimal place to heal itself. And these different issues that have been in the tissues can begin to come up to the surface. They can begin to reveal themselves so that they can be felt and released. Oh, I am not hearing you.
Sorry about that. I coughed a second ago and I had my mute on. My editor will fix this.
Okay.
So I guess, how does that change our daily operation then? Do you know what I mean? Because I think at the same time, like, you handle these stressors, right? But like, do you want to go right back into it, right? Like, so how do you kind of change your daily operation and change your function?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, one of the things is that we can't just take away modern stress. The way society's been built is like, we're gonna be in traffic. We're gonna be driving cars. There's chemtrails. There's the news, the media, whatever.
It's funny. Whenever I go outside and I look at the sky and I see like some chemtrails out there, I look at my wife and go, "It's gonna rain tomorrow." But anyway,
and who knows what's in that rain?
Yeah,
and how those chemical stresses are affecting us.
Right.
So we have to understand that, like, it's not as simple. We can't just, well, you could, I guess, just go be a monk and sit in a cave and meditate.
Yeah, but that's no way to, like, I guess for certain people, sure, that's a way to live. But like, I like people a lot, right? I want to be around them.
Yeah, I love people, and I don't want that. I want people to live their best life. I want people to live like their most optimum, potential out and find out how they can express themselves fully. And so one thing that I suggest for people is to begin to add presence is like one of the first steps that they can do. And what I mean by presence is that pause, taking a moment to pull all of your energy back into you, all of your awareness. Like I said, energy flows where your attention goes. So if you pull that energy and your awareness back into yourself, then all of a sudden you actually realize, wow, I am reacting to everything that is happening. I'm just constantly in this defense mode. Oh, this thing is happening.
It's so interesting because I feel like you can see that when you look at it, right? Like you get jacked up about a situation. So like you're all kind of in that situation, and, hopefully somebody else doesn't try to talk to you in that period of time, or it might not go so well for them. Like, I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. So step one, and this is really simple steps. So step one, you just bring presence, become present, become aware that I am in a stress state, or I am upset by this thing, this trigger that happened. And instead of going into your story about it, be in the present moment. Because story is great, and I love telling stories, but oftentimes our self-talk takes us into the past or the future, where we're either imagining how something's going to be, or we're like replaying, regretting, whatever it might be. So in presence now, we're in this like vertical state of time where all that is mattering is now. And once we're present, we can scan, we can assess, oh, wow, like, my belly is really tight right now. Oh, my shoulders are locked up. My jaw is clenching. I'm not breathing at all. Wow. And once, whatever it might be, it could be any or all of those things going on for you. But noticing what is that, and then using any tool, any phase shifting tool. And so this is kind of our languaging. What I mean by phase shifting is like shifting your state of being at will, like the phase that you're in, shifting it. So let's say the jaw is tight. Let's just use an example like that. Oh, my jaw is really, I'm like clenching my jaw. I'm really angry about this thing that happened. So I'm going to scan, wow, I'm noticing that. So first thing I'm going to do is relax my jaw. So by doing that, I'm going to let my teeth fall away from each other, place the tongue on the roof of my mouth. And from here, 3 deep, long breaths. In through the nose, filling up the belly like a balloon. Exhale through the mouth, pulling the belly towards the spine. 3 deep breaths. Just like that. It doesn't take that long. And all in that time period, the jaw's already started to relax. If you notice that maybe it's still feeling, a little tight, I'm starting to relax, but I'm still feeling a little agitated. One of the best things for phase shifting the tight jaw is to then add sound. So a simple like ah sound opens and releases the jaw perfectly. So you relax the jaw, deep breath in through the nose, open the mouth, and just let any ah sound come out that wants to come out at any volume that feels good or even appropriate for the space. Because maybe you're in your car and you can be really loud. Maybe you're in your office and maybe you can just like, more like a sigh. So we can even try that together if you want to try that really quick with me. So it's just exhale all your breath out first. Deeply inhale through the nose. Open the mouth and ah. Ah. And focusing on relaxing the jaw as much as possible. Just one itself can be really great. If you have more time, do it a few times. Do it until you can feel your state shifting. And then you fully phase shifted. Now you're fully present. That thing's not happening. And whatever it was that triggered you, that like took you into that state, isn't happening anymore.
And I guess when you look at it then too, like, do you start to become more aware of like what those triggers are then too, so that you can kind of like let them get to you a little less, if that makes sense?
Definitely. Triggers are going to be triggers. They're there so that we can grow, actually.
Right.
And so when we bring our awareness to it and we start to use these tools to help us move through it, then it does start to liberate. It does start to change. And maybe it's not like they may be choosing to not be bothered by that thing anymore. Right. Maybe you are, but it just starts to not bother you as much anymore.
It makes total sense. Like I guess here's the way of putting it. Like, I'm a big baseball fan. So it's like, you don't start hitting a 90 mile an hour fastball, right? You kind of start with, like hopefully you're somewhere in the 50s and you work your way up to the 70s. And then next thing you know, hitting a 95 mile an hour fastball is pretty easy because you've worked your way up to it, right? So it's like, but you didn't start there.
Exactly. So that's one of the things that I love to focus on is the small steps, because small steps matter. And every small step that you take counts, because they're what gets you there. One of my teachers had a mantra that I still use that's small steps many times. And I added to it, my mantra ends up being small steps many times, one step at a time. The path is a spiral, just keep going. So that's like how I can keep myself focused. But any part of that, just the small steps many times, will get us to, where we're going, and as we've heard, it's all about the journey, not the destination. And so all
grow,
those
frankly,
steps,
because it's overcoming those obstacles or those odds or whatever it may be that we hopefully come out the other side a better person.
Exactly. And you don't have to leap into everything that you do, and especially because that can be like kind of scary, like, oh, what if I fall? What if I don't make it? What if I don't jump far enough? Like, everyone can take a small step, and then another one, and then another one, and they end up adding up, and then every single one counts. And all of a sudden, say you're someone who wants to meditate, but you've never meditated in your life. I recommend starting with 2 minutes, put a timer on, sit, close your eyes, and just focus on your breath for 2 minutes. Inhale, exhale. See if you can make your breath longer, slower, deeper with each breath. When the timer goes off, you're done. And then you can add, right? Like, I did 2 minutes every day for the last 2 weeks. I want to see if I can do 5. And build up until maybe you become a master meditator and you meditate for, 90 minutes at a time, whatever you might need to do.
Yeah. Well, Swirl, I've really enjoyed this conversation. For people listening, if they want to connect with you, if they want to find out more about your work, how's going to be the best way for our listeners to do that?
Yeah, going to www.vitalswirl.com. So VITALSWIRL.
Very cool. Well, Swirl Moore Williams, thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been great.